be my test subject and have consented to be blindfolded for the duration of the experiment. Make your way around your surroundings. Familiarize yourself with the environment. Do whatever you think is necessary. Explore.
I majored in psychology in college and then pursued social psychology as a concentration in grad school.
As a social psychologist, I examine how individuals affect and are affected by a social group.
In grad school, my research on prejudice, such as racism and sexism, was fully funded by the university. I was able to publish multiple scholarly journals on the topic, and since then, I've taken a job at a university teaching classes in social psychology. In addition to teaching classes, I also conduct research at the university.
With this experiment, I wanted to see how an individual's perception of their own surroundings would affect their behavior. Is someone else in here?
Hello?
Hello?
Marco?
Hello? Everyone take your blindfolds off and quickly exit the room. Well, that did not go as expected.
I had already planned to discuss the events of the experiment with Marion, but it was even more necessary after the abnormalities that occurred.
I'm a practicing cognitive psychologist, and my areas of expertise are the internal mental processes of memory, learning, and perception. I investigate people's problem-solving and decision-making skills, as well as how people process and recall information. I discovered my passion for psychology in undergraduate school, where I majored in it and then moved on to obtain my doctorate so I could become a practicing psychologist. Today I work at a collaborative practice with other psychologists and medical professionals who study Alzheimer's disease and assist memory loss patients. When I first entered the field of psychology, I earned about $40,000 a year, but due to more expertise and experience, my income has probably doubled since then because I'm earning about $83,000 a year now.
Now, I have been informed that one of your test subjects did commit arson. That skewed your data, but if he had not lit that match, what do you think you would have anticipated from the experiment?
I knew that my test subjects were going to eventually realize that there were more of them in the room, but I expected them to congregate with one another and make themselves known with dialogue or some sort of gesture. I wanted to see whether they would reach out with their hands and whether they would attempt to have a conversation or find out more while blindfolded.
Okay, great. I have a couple follow-up questions just to help you further analyze the implications of your experiment. Firstly, how did you see the test subjects respond to the physical objects or obstacles in the room and to the realization that there were other people in the room? Like, did you see their body language change in any way? Secondly, had the fire incident not occurred, do you think that any of them would have attempted to leave the room or to take off the blindfold just out of pure curiosity? And lastly, how do you think their behavior around one another would have compared if they had not had on the blindfolds? Do you think it would have been more awkward, or do you think they would have been more confident around one another?
As I said before, I actually focus more on my work with memory loss patients and experimenting with memory recovery, but I agreed to work with Rachel to help her assess and analyze her experiment. By asking her questions about the behavior of her test subjects, I was helping her examine the way they all used problem-solving skills, language, and creativity. However, her test subject that started a fire seems to have thrown a pretty big loophole into the results of her experiment, and it seems as though he may be mentally unstable. I will likely ask for the assistance of a forensic psychologist who's much more competent in matters of possible insanity.
I was referred to this case because of my specialization in forensic psychology. Are you insane? My qualifications? Well, I left graduate school with a PhD in clinical psychology and then specialized in forensics. I also received training in the legal arena so I could give expert testimony and understand the legal process. After I complete all of my postdoctoral training, I hope to apply for a license that will allow me to hopefully set up my own independent practice. But for now, I will stick to the courtroom and evaluating the mental competencies of people like Charlie. When you started the fire, did you know what you were doing, Charlie?
It was so dark. I don't like the dark. I'm afraid of the dark. I started to freak out because I couldn't see anything that was around me. My mind was telling me that I just had to see. I always carry a box of matches with me in case this happens. I had to see. I just had to see. I had to see.
It seems to me that you weren't aware of your actions at the time the crime was committed, and therefore you're considered legally insane by the state. Your Honor, after my examination of the defendant, I confirmed his plea of insanity.
The defendant is found not guilty by reason of insanity and is sentenced to a psychiatric hospital until fit for release.